Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are looking at a subject that, honestly, I struggle to even call a person at this point.
Right.
It feels more like we're analyzing a weather system, a hurricane that has been parked over the entertainment industry for, what, 30 years?
Yeah.
We are talking about Jennifer Lopez, J-Lo.
It is a massive topic.
Right.
And you're right, force of nature is probably the most accurate descriptor.
Totally.
When we look at celebrity case studies, you usually see a peak and then, a decline or a pivot to a quieter life. Lopez is this fascinating anomaly where the intensity just never seems to drop.
Right. And before we get into the how, because that's really what I want to understand, how she actually engineered all this, I feel like we need to just look at the scoreboard for a second.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the sheer volume of stuff she has done is kind of blinding.
The numbers are, frankly, ridiculous.
Okay, so I have some stats here. Over 80 million records sold worldwide. Her films have grossed over $3.1 billion. And then her business ventures, estimates are over $5 billion generated.
Yeah.
That sounds like a typo.
It's not a typo, but if I can pinpoint the one statistic that really explains the uniqueness of her career, it's not the money, it's a specific week in January 2001.
Oh, I think I know this one. This is the big one.
It is. She becomes the only female entertainer in history to have a #1 album and a #1 film in the United States at the exact same time.
Which is just insane.
It is. It's a level of cross-platform dominance that we just don't see. I mean, you have great singers who try to act and are okay at it.
Right.
You have great actors who release a vanity album. But to be the #1 consumer choice in both mediums simultaneously, that is the definition of a mogul.
But that's the shiny end result. The mission for this deep dive is to figure out the machinery underneath that. Because let's be honest, there are people who will argue she's not the best singer in the world. There are critics who say she's not the best actress in the world. So if she's not the technical best at the specific skills, how did she build an empire that dwarfs almost everyone else?
That is the billion-dollar question.
Yeah.
We have to look at how she navigated the transition from fly girl to global CEO, and perhaps more importantly, how she survived.
Yes.
Because she has faced public humiliations and industry shifts that would have absolutely buried 10 other careers.
So let's rewind all the way back. I always pictured J-Lo in the furs, the diamonds, the Versace. Was she always this glamorous figure? Was she like a theater kid growing up?
Actually, quite the opposite. If you go back to the Bronx, Castle Hill neighborhood in the 70s and 80s, you don't find a diva, you find a jock.
A jock. Serious.
Like a serious one. She was born in 1969 to Puerto Rican parents, David and Guadalupe. And the household was strict, very Catholic. She shared a bed with her two sisters, Leslie and Linda. There wasn't a lot of space, literally or metaphorically, for ego.
So where does the performance come in?
Well, she ran track on a national level. She played softball. She was a gymnast. And I think that's a crucial key to understanding her. She approaches performing with the mindset of an athlete. It's about repetition, physical discipline, and endurance.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. You see that in her dancing now. It's incredibly athletic.
Exactly. But the artistic spark, the moment she decided, I want to be on a screen, that came from West Side Story. Specifically, seeing Rita Moreno.
Representation matters.
It really does. She saw a Puerto Rican woman on screen singing, dancing, acting, and winning an Oscar. It was the proof of concept.
Okay.
But realizing you want to do that and convincing your strict parents that it's a viable career path, well, those are two very different things.
I can imagine. Mom, Dad, I'm going to be a movie star. Usually doesn't go over well in a pragmatic immigrant household.
It went over terribly. She attended Baruch College for exactly 1 semester. She hated it. She wanted to quit to pursue dance full-time.
And her parents.
Her mother, Guadalupe, was terrified. She told Jennifer, no Latinas did that. It was considered foolish, a dead end.
And this is where we see that J-Lo steeliness for the first time, right? She didn't just cave.
No. And this is a pivotal moment. Most teenagers would argue and then go back to class. Lopez moved out.
Wow.
She stopped speaking to her mother for 8 months. And we need to be clear about what moving out meant. She wasn't staying at a friend's nice apartment. She was homeless.
Wait, actually homeless?
She was sleeping on a cot in the office of the Phil Black Dance Studio in Manhattan.
No way.
She was 18. She was taking dance gigs and rap videos for $50 just to buy pizza.
That is gritty. That's a far cry from the private jets.
It is the crucible. That's where the hunger comes from. She toured Europe with this musical review called Golden Musicals of Broadway, And she was miserable because she was just in the chorus.
Just one of the crowd.
The
Wow.
only member of the troupe who didn't get a solo. She was grinding, but she wasn't breaking through.
But she did eventually break through. 1991, the Fly Girl era.
And Live in Color.
This show was huge. I mean, culturally massive.
It was. It was a disruptor. And getting cast as a Fly Girl was a big deal. Rosie Perez was the choreographer, and she picked Lopez because she had that look. But it wasn't a smooth ride.
I read something about friction there. What happened?
Well, she clashed with Rosie Perez. Lopez has always been very assertive. But there was also a body image element that is really shocking to look back on from 2026.
How so?
You have to remember the beauty standard of 1991. It was shifting toward heroin chic. Very thin, very waifish.
Right, Kate Moss.
Kate Moss was about to become the ideal. And here comes Jennifer Lopez, who is Puerto Rican and curvy. She felt ostracized by the other dancers because of her voluptuous figure. She was considered heavy by Hollywood standards.
That is wild to think about, considering she literally changed the global standard for body types later on.
Right. But at the time, she was fighting against the current. And despite that, she was gaining traction. She was actually a backup dancer for Janet Jackson.
Wait, really? She was in a Janet video?
That's the way love goes. If you watch it closely, she's right there. And she was actually booked to go on the Janet World Tour.
Okay, for a dancer, that is the Super Bowl. You don't say no to a Janet Jackson tour.
Jennifer Lopez did.
Why? Why would you do that?
Because she wanted to act.
Yeah.
She had this intuitive sense that if she went on tour for a year, she would be just a dancer forever.
Wow.
She called Janet Jackson and quit. Industry executives were already telling her, we can sign you as a singer, you have the look. And she said no. She insisted on acting first.
That is an incredible amount of confidence, or maybe arrogance, for someone who was sleeping in a dance studio not long before, turning down a sure thing for a maybe.
It's a strategy of high risk, high reward. She started with small TV roles, shows like South Central and Second Chances, but she was building a reel.
Right.
And by 1995, she lands Mi Familia.
And that wasn't a fluff role, right?
No, it was serious drama. She got nominated for an Independent Spirit Award. Then she's working with Francis Ford Coppola in Jazz.
With Robin Williams?
Yeah. And then she's holding her own against Jack Nicholson in Blood and Wine. She was doing the work to be taken seriously as a dramatic actress.
But those were the stepping stones. The rocket fuel was 1997. Selena.
This is the moment everything changes. Portraying Selena Quintanilla Perez right after her tragic death. I mean, the pressure was immense. The Latin community was watching closely.
And the paycheck made history, didn't it?
It did. She became the first Latina actress to earn $1 million for a film role.
$1 million.
Lopez called it a statement to the world. She was setting a price point. She was saying, I am worth what the white leading ladies are worth.
But Hollywood wasn't entirely ready to accept that, were they?
Not at all. There's a story about the director, Gregory Nava, wanting to campaign for an Oscar nomination for her. The studio executives literally told him the Academy will never nominate a Latina.
Wow. They just said the quiet part out loud back then.
They did. She got a Golden Globe nomination, but the Oscar door was shut. However, the performance proved she could carry a movie. And then, just to prove she wasn't a one-hit wonder, she did Out of Sight in 1998.
Oh, that movie holds up. Her and George Clooney. The chemistry in that trunk scene.
It's legendary. And the critics, who had been skeptical, were forced to admit she was the real deal. They praised her grit and her seductiveness. She was tough, she was erotic, she was smart. She had established herself as an A-list dramatic actress.
So here's the moment where logic says stop. She's made it. She's an A-list actress making millions, and she decides to launch a pop music career.
In 1999, that was considered career suicide.
Right, because back then, actor singing was a joke. It was Bruce Willis releasing a blues album. It was a vanity project.
Exactly. Her agents were terrified. They thought she would destroy her acting credibility. But Lopez felt she had missed the performance aspect, the dancing, the live energy that she left behind.
And she didn't just dip her toe in. She signed with Sony. Tommy Mottola.
And she brought that same competitive energy. Her debut album, On the Sick,
Named after the subway line.
named after the subway line she took home to the Bronx, was a monster. If You Had My Love knocked Ricky Martin off the top spot. It was #1 for 5 weeks.
And this feeds into the whole Latin explosion context, right? Because for listeners who weren't around in '99, it's hard to explain how segregated the charts were before that.
It's crucial context. Before 1999, if you were a Latin artist, you stayed on the Latin charts. Or maybe you had a crossover hit like La Bamba, Once in a Blue Moon.
Right.
But J-Lo, Ricky Martin, Mark Anthony, Shakira, They kicked down the door. They integrated pop radio. They made Latin a central part of American pop culture, not a niche.
And then comes the historic week we mentioned, January 2001. The Wedding Planner is the #1 movie. J-Lo is the #1 album.
She reshaped the idea of celebrity. She wasn't an actress who sings. She wasn't a singer who acts. She was both, equally. And she was dominating the cultural conversation in a way that's hard to describe today because the media landscape was so focused then.
We have to talk about the green dress.
The Versace, the 2000 Grammys.
I love this story because it's actually a piece of tech history.
It is. So she walks out in this silk chiffon dress cut down to her navel. And the world loses its collective mind. The next day, millions of people are trying to find a picture of it online.
Yeah.
But back then, search engines just gave you a list of blue links. Text.
Right, you had to click through 10 links just to hope one had a JPEG.
Exactly. And the engineers at Google saw this massive spike in traffic, specifically looking for an image, and realized their search engine was broken for what people actually wanted.
So they built a new one.
So they invented Google Images.
She literally changed the architecture of the internet by wearing a dress.
That is the power of her brand at that moment, and she kept pushing. She released J to the LO, the remixes in 2002.
I remember this.
It was the first remix album to debut at #1. She was embracing hip-hop, working with Ja Rule and Murder Inc. She shifted the sound of pop radio to that pop-rap collaboration model we see everywhere now.
So everything is going right. She is on top of the world. She is invincible. And then we hit the Ben Affleck era.
The crash, 2002 to 2004.
This was the first time two celebrity names were mashed up like that, wasn't it?
It was the first major portmanteau. But Ben Affleck became a dirty word. She started dating Ben Affleck, and the media coverage wasn't just intense, it was suffocating.
It felt like the public actually started to hate them for being everywhere.
They did. It was saturation.
Oh.
You couldn't open a magazine or turn on a TV without seeing them. And then Jiggly happened in 2003.
Oh, God, Jiggly. I've never seen it, but I know it's legendary for being bad.
It is considered one of the worst films ever made. It bombed at the box office, but the reaction was disproportionate. Critics didn't just review the movie, they eviscerated her.
Wow.
They attacked her character, her talent, her relationship.
It turned personal.
Very personal. She was painted as this out-of-touch diva. The engagement to Affleck was called off days before the wedding because of excessive media attention.
Can you imagine that?
Think about that. They canceled the wedding because there are too many helicopters.
She later said she lost her sense of self during this time.
She did. She questioned if she even belonged in the business. And professionally, the hits stopped coming. Her albums, Rebirth and Brave, flopped compared to her earlier work.
Right.
She left Sony. The narrative was, J-Lo is over. She's overexposed.
So how do you come back from that? Because usually when the public turns on you that hard, you don't come back.
You have to pivot.
Ugh.
And she made a move in 2011 that her advisors told her was a terrible idea.
What was it?
She joined American Idol as a judge.
Now, in 2026, that seems normal, but back then, big stars didn't do reality TV. That was for has-beens.
Exactly. It was seen as admitting defeat. It was a huge gamble. But J-Lo saw an opportunity. She realized the public hated a caricature of her, the diva. She needed them to see the real person.
And it worked.
It worked brilliantly. On Idol, she wasn't a diva. She was warm. She's a mom. She gave constructive criticism. She cried when contestants went home.
Right. She seemed human.
It humanized her completely. It is cited as the most impressive reality TV-based rejuvenation of a music career ever.
And she didn't waste that attention. She dropped on the floor right in the middle of it.
Which became the best-selling single of her entire career. Think about the timeline. She's over 40 years old, a decade past her prime, and she releases the biggest hit of her life.
Wow.
It was the highest-selling single by a female artist in 2011.
She gets back on the road, the world tour, the Vegas residency.
Which grossed over $100 million. She rebuilt the empire, brick by brick, but there was still one thing missing.
Acting credibility.
Exactly. She'd been doing rom-coms and voiceovers, but she hadn't been taken seriously as an actress since Out of Sight. Until 2019. Hustlers.
Playing Ramona, the veteran stripper, what a role.
She produced it herself because no one else would cast her in a role like that. And it was a tour de force. She was terrifying, maternal, athletic, vulnerable.
And the Oscar buzz was huge.
It was. And she was snubbed. Again.
That feels like a recurring theme. The industry loves to make money off her, but hates to give her the trophy.
It sparked a lot of controversy about how the Academy views stories about women like that, and Latina actresses in general. But frankly, she didn't need the trophy.
No?
The movie opened to $33 million. She proved she could still open a film on her name alone.
Which brings us to the modern era, the 2020s, and she kicked it off with the Super Bowl.
The 2020 halftime show was Shakira, most watched ever. But we need to look at the political layer here, because J-Lo usually stays away from overt politics.
Right, she's very corporate usually. But this show had kids in cages.
It did. She sang, "Let's Get Loud," draped in a Puerto Rican flag, which is an American flag, by the way, while children sat in cage-like structures. It was a direct critique of the border policies of the Trump administration. It was a risky move for a family-friendly halftime show, but she felt she had to use the platform.
And since then, it feels like she's been running a marathon at sprint pace. The Netflix deal, the rom-coms like Marry Me and Shotgun Wedding, and then the Ben Affleck reunion.
Part 2, the sequel.
And Part 2 ended. The divorce was finalized just recently, January 6, 2026.
It was a roller coaster. She released that massive multimedia project in 2024, This Is Me Now, an album, a movie, a documentary.
All at once.
It was incredibly vulnerable, basically dissecting her love life for the world. And even though the relationship didn't last, the art remains.
And she hasn't slowed down. In 2025, she did Kiss of the Spider-Woman, a musical.
Going back to her roots.
And she's touring. And this is my favorite. She did a cameo in the Anaconda reboot.
She knows how to laugh at herself. That's the key.
Okay, we've tracked the timeline, but I want to spend a solid chunk of time on the business. Because we threw out that $5 billion number earlier. She didn't make that from Spotify streams.
No. The music is the marketing, the products are the revenue, and Jennifer Lopez fundamentally changed how celebrity branding works.
How so? Celebrities have always sold stuff.
Yes, but before J-Lo, it was an endorsement model. Elizabeth Taylor had a perfume, sure, but usually a company would just pay a star to hold a bottle in a magazine ad. Lopez changed the equity model.
With Glow.
Glow by J-Lo, released in 2002. Everyone told her it would cheapen her brand. Movie stars don't sell perfume. She did it anyway. And she was involved in the notes, the bottle shape, the marketing.
And it smelled like billions of dollars.
Sales exceeded $2 billion. It created the celebrity fragrance category, as we know, Britney, Paris Hilton, Ariana Grande. None of those empires exist without the blueprint J-Lo created.
Wow.
She moved from being a face to being a partner.
And then the fashion line, J-Lo by Jennifer Lopez.
This was equally disruptive. In the early 2000s, fashion was not inclusive. You couldn't find trendy clothes for curvy bodies.
No, not at all.
Lopez saw a market gap that was just herself and millions of women like her.
She forced retailers to change their mannequins.
I mean, she did. She demanded they use curvier mannequins to display her clothes. She understood her customer because she was her customer. And that's why her net worth is estimated at $400 million today. She owns her IP.
This leads us to the legacy. And I don't mean the movies or the songs, I mean the cultural shift. We talked about the fat comments in the 90s.
This is arguably her biggest impact. We call it body politics. Before Lopez, the mainstream Anglo-American ideal was the waif.
Right.
Lopez arrived with hips, with a butt, and she didn't hide it. She emphasized it. La guitarra.
She made it desirable.
She shifted the male gaze and the female aspiration. There is a direct statistical line from Jennifer Lopez's rise to the popularity of buttock augmentation surgeries and the fitness trends we see on Instagram today.
Wow.
She made it okay to take up space physically.
And representation-wise, you called it the J-Lo effect.
It's the door-opening effect.
Oh.
Selena Gomez, Becky G, Cardi B, they all walked through a door, J-Lo kicked down. She proved that a Latina could be the biggest star on the planet without changing her name, without dyeing her hair blonde, and without diluting her identity.
She's even got a scientific legacy.
Yes, the Litoracna lopeza,
What is that?
a species of aquatic mite found in Puerto Rico named after her. The scientists said her music kept them in a good mood while they were writing their papers.
That is true immortality, being a mite.
But I think the most fascinating thing about her is the contradiction. She is Jenny from the block, the girl who slept in a dance studio. But she is also the diva who allegedly demands white lilies in her dressing room. She's the romantic who dives headfirst into love, and the businesswoman who protects her assets with iron walls.
She is the triple threat. Actually, are we at quadruple threat now? Acting, singing, dancing, business?
She refuses to be pigeonholed.
Yeah.
And that is the secret to her survival. When the movie roles dried up, she toured. When the music stalled, she went to TV. When she needed credibility, she produced. She is constantly assessing the landscape and pivoting.
So as we wrap this up, We're looking at a woman who started with nothing, fought her family, fought the industry, became a billionaire, lost the public's love, won it back, and is still standing in 2026.
It raises a provocative question for me about the future of celebrity. We are seeing the end of the traditional movie star. The era where you put a name on a poster and the movie opens. That's gone.
It's over.
The IP is the star now. Marvel is the star.
Right.
So is Jennifer Lopez the last true movie star in that old Hollywood sense?
Right.
Or is she actually the prototype for the modern celebrity corporation where the brand is actually more important than the art?
That is the question. She's the bridge between Elizabeth Taylor and Kim Kardashian.
Precisely. And with her recent return to musical theater in Kiss of the Spider-Woman, going back to her roots and the closing of the Ben Affleck chapter, you have to wonder what the next reinvention looks like.
Well, if there's one thing we've learned today, it's that there will definitely be a next chapter. She refuses to disappear.
She does, and that's why we're still talking about her.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.